Danielle next. Danielle Sellers is from Key West, Florida. She has an MA from the writing seminar at Johns Hopkins University and an MFA from the University of Mississippi, where she held the John Grisham Poetry Fellowship. Her poems have appeared in Prairie Schooner, Subtropics, Smartish Pace, the Cimarron Review, and Poet Lore, and elsewhere. Her first book, the poem Key Elegies, was published by Main Street Rag. Her second collection of poetry, The Minor Territories, is forthcoming from Sundress Publications in 2018. She teaches literature and creative writing at Trinity Valley School in Fort Worth, Texas. Thank you. Please welcome Danielle.
Before you start, could you hear over the air conditioning? Yeah. Was that okay for everybody? Okay.
So I wanted to thank Malvern for having us here. This is the second time I've had the pleasure of reading at Malvern, but the first time I've read with my former professor, Kurt Heinzelman, who was my professor 17 years ago. Sorry, Kurt, it sounds like a long time ago, but it feels just like yesterday. It really does. So I want to thank Kurt for asking me to read with him on this special night. I'm going to read a few poems from the new collection, which is forthcoming in March. It's called The Minor Territories. Letter from the Velvet Ditch 1, Oxford, Mississippi. While he patrols the dark streets banked by sewage, I learn the art of baking French bread. I have nothing but time. In my warm kitchen, yeast fills the lung of its loaf and sighs. I bake and bake and bake. I imagine him in Iraq, dusty, blistered, knees and elbows rock scraped, but mostly unharmed. I do not think about those trying to shoot him or who he shot. From Mississippi, I send letters he says he keeps under his helmet, the words of my cursive script close to his shaved scalp. Sweat softens the perfumed paper. The ink runs. Instead of IEDs, I imagine the market, strewn with anise and cardamom, goat hocks, thin calves, slit throats, baskets of rice bleaching in the sun. He scoops a handful, lets it sift through his fingers like sand. I count down his return to Germany, have a ticket to meet him there. He has promised beers and tall glasses, a tour of the Alps, fondue, a diamond ring. I make a list of things to do. Can the wild figs, choose the holiday turkey, divide and separate the daylilies, quilt the summer-wounded beds with pine, before fall's frost invades, before the maples surrender their shields. Fall wedding in Georgia. We made it to the Columbus courthouse just before it closed. In the disheveled judge's office, the furniture was common, metal filing cabinets graced with fake ivy, grocery store tile under our feet, and a wall of windows faced the autumnal south. The sky was green as pond algae. Sporadic lightning pierced down country. Leaves swirled up, vortexes. On a boxy TV, the Weather Channel flickered warnings of tornadoes skirting my new trapezoidal county. We said our vows without meeting eyes. The elevator down was quiet. We ran to the truck under the sting of cold, fast rain. That night, we had reservations at an old mansion turned bistro. The sky hid its diamonds. At dinner, we told no one we were newlyweds. Memorial Day. He left me with 100 unpacked boxes, too heavy to lift up the rented stairs. The baby, fussy with yeast, just beginning to teethe. her first ear infection coming on. The only calls the bill collectors, only bills in the mail, and shiny magazines filled with pottery I wanted but couldn't buy. This was after the 5th kicked garbage can, the kitchen a mess hall of spilled beans and coffee grounds, after the hard right to the ear, the rug burn, the bitten fingers, after the crushed turtle under his boot. A year later, he'll get a hero's hip hip hooray down at Schooner Wharf, at the old bait and tackle where he'll gas up his new outboard. He'll wear a camouflage cap and Ford will sport ribbons, bands of honor. A reporter from the Citizen will interview him for the paper, a reward for his Purple Heart. Civil. For our daughter's sake, I'll remember sweat like an hourglass on the back of his shirt as he axed the felled branches for winter. How stove warm the Georgia house could be. While I was pregnant, he sometimes rubbed my feet. So those are 4 poems from the first section of the book, and I'll read a couple of poems from the second section and then the third section. Demonstrations. Weeks before the New World began, we met at an icebreaker. I wore coral, the towers still stood. No one had to scan the skyline for planes. During the invasion's first days, under the sprinkling of blossoms, I followed you to the Capitol. We held hands through the alphabet streets, shared a cherry soda, a bag of roasted nuts, joined a sea of shining bodies. The anarchists, with their mohawks and tear-inked eyes, charged, pushing us forward, one nation then, rubber bullets whizzing past. Ahead, the white smoke of tear gas. I hid my face in your coat. I hid my face in your coat. You covered your mouth with my hair. I wish our fists back then had meant more to anyone, even to us. You wouldn't have gone further north. I wouldn't have slunk back home to marry a local boy who liked the feeling of his fingers on my throat. East Coast Lament. I wake some bright morning remembering the clean taste of you, your fingers ribboned in my hair less silver then, or how you always walk the dark blocks late back to your sparse apartment. I left red doors in dangerous cities unlocked. Where you went in your mind, I wanted to follow, those narrow paths carved in deep snow. Then your breathing in and your mouth was light, airy, the kisses platonic, then not at all. I let the last fleece run out, willed what wouldn't fit in the too small rented car to the sidewalk. You stood on the petal-blown street. I drove south unmapped, not knowing then what would have made you follow. So here are some poems, mostly about motherhood, that appear in the third section of the collection. Heroine, cherub, squat, and diapers. It's in 4 sections. 1. As the September equinox approaches, my daughter plants her bare feet firmly in clay, points to the sky, the jasmine, her sandbox, relishes outside the one good word she can say. 2. The dogs are gods to be scolded. She is often wrong. In this small house we orbit each other, always in motion. Even in sleep her eyes flutter, tongue swirls around a pacifier. Her body contorts and makes use of the space it is given. 3. She delights in pudding smear, commercial jingles, and long baths. The shape of my body is famous to her. I am moon and sun and the light. 4. Learning patience, her fingers work a puzzle. She turns the wooden pieces forwards and aft. Try as she might, the star will never fit the heart. Peach tree late summer. At the nursery, I asked my daughter, who's 2.5, to choose a sapling. She trips through the spindly trunks and black plastic buckets, pulls leaves off to study them. She even chews them, spits and wipes her mouth with the back of her hand, proclaims finally, apple tree. But we're in Mississippi, where apples won't grow. Our love affair with winter is short-lived. It often blankets our brown river valley with a dusting of overnight snow, a delight given, then taken back too soon. Heat muscles in when it shouldn't. I purchase a peach because she says the leaves are shaped like green bananas, like green half-moons, like green sickles, and because she was born in Georgia, the only place we were ever a complete family, though she has no memory of it, and I envy that. Digging through clay in mid-September is like putting a shovel to concrete. Not young anymore, my knees grind, the old tennis elbow acts up. We wet the ground, she holds the garden hose and drinks from it, though no one's ever told her how. I replace the useless orange clay with store-bought soil. We plant the tree, old as she is, but twice as tall, and tap the earth. She asks if this peach tree will grow apples. Her first lesson in disappointment, that what we want is often never what we can have. Even second best takes leverage, sweat, muscle, and bone work. Where we end doesn't look much different than where we began. A tree is still a tree in the ground or in a pot, and peach will never taste clean like apple. Thank you.